Welcome to yet another episode of Reinventing Finance with my charming co-host Tom. Tom, how are you today? This is in English, not in Dutch.
That's correct. No, I'm fine. I'm looking forward to this talk.
Likewise, and as usual, we're not all by ourselves. We have Uwe Schumacher from DOMCURA on the line. Uwe, how are you this fine morning?
I'm pretty good. Weather is fine here in Kiel in northern Germany. Blue sky. That's just the way I like it.
I think a lot of people like it, to be honest. So that at least is something that we can all agree upon. Let's see how cozy, the next couple of hour or so is. Maybe for the few of our listeners who don't know you yet, who don't know DOMCURA yet, care to give a brief introduction, about yourself and the company that you represent?
Of course, I'm happy to do this. I'm Uwe Schumacher. I'm the CEO of DOMCURA, and I'm working in this position now for the last roughly 10 years. Before that, I was leading a direct insurer here in Germany, which at my time was called Direct Line. Now it's called Verti because it has been sold to the Mapfre Group of Spain. And for this insurer, I was setting up the company in Germany. I was the first employee back in 96, where it was founded as Allstate Direct, as the daughter of an American insurance company. And before that, I was working as a management consultant for about 9 years, 8.5 years whatsoever. So that's about me. Should I continue with DOMCURA?
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, DOMCURA is an MGA, as you would say in English. In German, we call it Assekurateur, which is a little bit tricky. Is an MGA. Basically, if I have to explain what is an MGA, I'm always saying an MGA is an insurer that does, or is a company that acts like an insurer. However, it's not taking the final risk, but is basically reinsuring the policies with an insurer. And DOMCURA itself in Germany is, as I would say, the market leading company in this field, market leading in a market with a lot of MGAs, I would say, but most of them, I would say, in Germany, we can count probably a medium to high size 2-digit figures, so something like 40, 50, 60 MGAs that we have here. And if you rank them according to written premium, I'm still more used to written premium as an indicator of the business size. Basically, we have now about 420 million euros per annum. Most of the MGAs in Germany are probably a 1-digit million number in premium. And if they have whatever 12 or 15 million, they probably belong to the top 5 or so. So in that sense, we are probably by far, according to this number, leading the market. Basically, we are working only in the P&C market. We are not doing anything in life. We are not doing anything in health. We are not doing anything in cyber. But all the products that are in the bread and butter area, so building insurance, accident insurance, you name it, just the regular things we are selling.
Uwe, from your kind of extensive experience in the market, both on the MGA side, but the insurance side, do you, and also, being active contributor in the insurtech scene, etc. Do you have some counterintuitive learnings where you which you only get from Uwe, where you, and I think an interesting thing is where do you still disagree with some of your colleagues who are also very experienced? Do you have some counterintuitive nuggets of wisdom or points of argument?
Well, probably the first thing that comes into my mind is, and if I put it on the point, you should not take a tie or the age as an indication of an innovative person or of a wise person. Yeah? I think that's something that I've seen in the industry, in the insurance industry, that this is done probably many times. So one thing is, if you're wearing a tie, you're old school, and you can't deal with all the new technologies, insurtech, and so on. You need to wear jeans and not a tie.
Red sneakers. I think red
That's
sneakers
one thing.
is
That's a good
is a
thing.
rite of passage.
For 1.5 years, I was wearing white sneakers to a suit, which also looked quite sharp, I think. Well, and the other thing is also age as an indicator of being wise. Let's say, I think that's the same thing. Yeah? So something like, I'm working 30 years in the industry, and I've done basically many things. I wouldn't say everything, but many things, and for that reason I can judge this or that better than somebody who is in the industry or who is in this field for 2 years, for example. I think that's not working either. I've learned that also as a person with a long history in the industry. Sometimes you meet people who just entered the industry, who have no background in this field, and they tell you about things where you say, well, that's true. Why didn't someone think about this earlier? I think that are the two things: tie and age. You should not derive any conclusions in terms of wisdom, experience, innovation out of these signs.
If we flip this around, what would be a good, in your experience, and this doesn't have to be scientifically proven and, on a statistically significant sample size, but how does your gut, how you screen for wisdom? And I suppose that wisdom experience, for some reason, and I actually don't think it's is almost like a counter to innovativeness, which it really shouldn't be. But anyway, how do you scout for those in your engagement with people?
I think just you started your question with it's not a science, yeah. And with introductions like these, I sometimes struggle because my background, I haven't said it in the beginning, my background is computer science and physics. For that reason, I'm always saying I'm very reluctant to use the term 100%, yeah, as especially salespeople are normally using, according to my experience. If something has been achieved, let's say 50% or something like this, salesperson normally would say, I have achieved it completely. Yeah? So, and on my end, even with 99% as a mathematician or computer scientist, as a physician, you learn that 99% doesn't equal 100%. Yeah? So that's something that I'm always trying to specify. So I'm happy that you said just from your gut feeling, because I don't have any statistics, but I think trying with some empathy to learn about a person you're talking to. Is this person open? Is this person listening to what you or what other people are saying, or is this person that is only transmitting, only sending out statements, yeah, and is not open to listen or to learn. Yeah? I think that's what I have learned over time. For myself, is a good sign of is somebody taking his experience as a fact and as something that is not being discussable, if this word exists. So that's usually persons who are not open, who are not listening, who are just talking. So I think that for me would be a sign for being open, for being possibly innovative. Yeah? So it's not a necessary. It's a condition that has to be fulfilled. Yeah, but it's not. Of course, not always the case that with this you are innovative and so on.
Yeah, but if I would, I mean, it's very kind of you to play down your experience in such a nice way. But I think, let's say, if you just see the insurtech scene, or in general the startup scene of the last, let's say, 10 or 15 years, it was not a natural situation. So there was so much money around that, let's say, basic, you can call them mathematical or statistical rules of the game, and that means revenues and costs and profits, etc., is something we often didn't discuss that much. And a lot of us, of those insurtechs, but also fintech companies, didn't want to, let's say, listen to experienced people about regulatory stuff, or laundry stuff, etc. And if you just see what's happening at the moment, I think, I mean, it's nice that you say, as somebody who's very experienced, that you can learn a lot of people entering the scene. But I really think that a lot of insurtechs and fintechs would have been, let's say, in a better shape if they would have taken old experience of the banking scene, of the insurtech, or if of the incumbents would have taken them more seriously. Because, let's say, I mean, we don't have to mention Wirecard and all those stuff, but it's not as easy as it sometimes seems. And to produce an app doesn't mean that you have built an insurance company.
Absolutely, and let's be clear. I think insurance is not whatever is not about cars, or is not about some fancy things, but in some way, insurance is sometimes perhaps a little bit boring. That's the reason why I never wanted to be in insurance, and I'm ending up my professional life with having been only in the insurance industry. But it's not the most exciting part, I would say, especially if you enter this industry. And for that reason, people tend, and I've talked to a lot of people who have either worked in or have founded an insurtech. And we are just, by the way, we as DOMCURA, and we as part of the MLP enterprise, we are looking for, as we say, inorganic growth. So we are looking to buy companies, and we are of course also looking at insurtechs in this sense. We are also currently discussing with some companies, because you probably are also aware that times got somewhat tougher for insurtechs, because the whole financial world has changed over the past 12 months, you could say now. And things are getting much more tight and much more demanding. And if you're looking in some of the business plans, you're seeing that from my end, there are challenges, or there are plans. Let's put it perhaps at first like this: there are plans where I say, well, if I've looked at just for discussion's sake, I've looked at five insurtechs that are more or less working in the same field, and all of them are having a written premium right now after whatever, let's say, 2 years of 2 million euros premium. And interestingly, all the five insurtechs are trying or are planning to achieve 200 million euros written premium within the next 5 years. I'm saying, so that would be 1 billion for five. And I'm looking at the whole market, and I think also in 5 years, Allianz or AXA will also still have a little bit of premium, and some of the public insurers or the HUKs or whatsoever will also have some premium. Where the heck do they think they get 1 billion within the next 5 years? Are all the others sleeping during this time? I don't think so. Yeah. So sometimes I think they are, perhaps they have to, because otherwise they don't get the money, or they, in the past at least, they didn't get the money. But
that's the thing.
It sounds quite unrealistic. Yeah.
I think kind of having been part of a cohort, but not, achieving certain milestones, which is usually 100% growth over a certain trajectory planned or already booked, that would interest VCs. I think, and of course, you will have, I believe, certain individuals who are, as you would call, they would probably not be as curious as you would like. They would probably be more sending than listening. And they would have a certain rigidity in their thinking that, you would not have, wouldn't have flagged on your thing as green. But some others might also have been the product of their surroundings. I remember, coming from family background, MGA background, working at something for 25 years. Then I was sitting down in 2015 in London, in a cohort of Seed Camp. Revolut was a previous cohort. Some other dude built a bank. WeFox was, and this was, and everyone was just going, go big or go home, go big or go home. And then, and then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be good if I have a customer acquisition to customer lifetime ratio of, I don't know, 0.5? And they're like, no, you're growing too slowly. And I was like, what? And I remember these discussions with my parents, and no one was looking for profit, and people were giving you this money. And that was an ecosystem, and everything else was downplayed as not innovative, not having a vision, etc. And I think it was the function of our times, cheap money, etc. And yes, I think it's and then you have the product of that, because at the end of the day, to translate, and it doesn't work, a German saying, it was a good weather environment, anyone, and secondarily, Tom, just to your point, I think also, you talked about banks. Goldman Sachs also managed to lose 4 billion on their payments platform with Apple. Now, my understanding from, Goldman Sachs is pretty smart guys, and they would also probably understand the difference between 99 and 100%. I don't know these guys, right? But that would be my understanding from having interacted, like super smart people. But I think ultimately it probably comes down to greed, or not being patient, or again, being part of your surrounding, because then, you thought you were Goldman Sachs, but Sequoia was cooler than you, right? And you were then influenced by Sand Hill Road, and you wanted to be part of that. And so I think, I just kind of want to be a little bit, and I know, Tom, that you weren't, and I thought that, it's also a function of your surrounding, is basically what I'm saying. And there was enough, let's say, over optimism to go around. But I think it's interesting from your point, that unless you tell some crazy number, and I think that's to understand, a VC is not your traditional value investor or even a private equity investor who says, let's grow this 20%, 30% over time, they're placing some bets, and you shatter or you go home, and you need, unless you have a path or unless you have at least an ambition, I think we can, you probably don't stumble into 200 million market share. You probably need to really make some bets, gamble, some people would like to and then have things go your way, but that is exactly what they expect of you. And you need to make sure that you want to take that deal. And now the tables have turned, and, probably in 10 years time, it just goes in cycles.
Absolutely.
And we're just in a different cycle.
And if I just picking that up, going not forward, going backward, as I said, some 25 years ago, I was in the position to set up an insurance company at that time. Was the first staff member of Direct Line here in Germany, of Allstate at that time called. And when we became part of the Royal Bank of Scotland group at that time, and Royal Bank of Scotland was at that time second profitable bank in the world, and they had really very big ambitions in China, for instance, had a stake in the Bank of China and so on. Yeah? And basically the only name of the game was you have to grow. We don't care about EBIT, we don't care about profits. You have to grow, you have to get customers and so on. And that was at the end also one of the reasons why my colleague at that time and why we decided that we need to have partnerships, because in Germany in the beginning, the 2000s, we thought it wouldn't be possible for a new market entrant to become profitable in car insurance just by direct sales. But at one point, you get to a situation where also your owner says, okay, now we have played for a while, now you have grown to a certain stage, but are you able to deliver also profits now? And you have to switch then, and suddenly the discussions are turning. And suddenly other qualities of the management are being looked at, are being asked from the management. Suddenly you have to turn the business, not just a gross written premium, but also a certain balance between growth and profits is being asked. And I think that's an experience that, according to my view at least, that's an experience that many people in the insurtech scene, let's say at least in Germany or in Middle Europe. I'm not able to really judge other continents in this case, but that they have made so far. Yeah, but they only know growth, and nobody cares about profits.
So, because I think and it's interesting because, as you said, there are quite a few of exactly these things. They've listened to one of the previous employers of Tom, who shall not be named, and they said, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And there seem to be, from that playbook, quite a few direct insurers, especially from insurance groups, that found out that customer acquisition costs are, not improving to the point, or the whole portfolio is not improving, and it is actually different, being a direct insurer as part of a group who needs to gradually grow. So, do you have some learnings from your own experience of, and potentially are there even counterintuitive learnings, or is it just to toughen up, and you can't have it both ways, or as the English say, you can't have your cake and eat it too?
Well, certainly that's something that where I wouldn't disagree. that's a common truth, and that's true here as well. Yeah, but I think although it's not rocket science, but being open to change, for instance, is one thing that I'm thinking of immediately. So, for instance, looking back to my experience, at some point when in the car insurance business, customer acquisition costs were really the main challenge that we had, and when we started, I'm pretty old now. I'm just seeing when the internet came up, kind of, in the beginning, internet for car insurance was the beginning of 2000s, and when things with Google started, and you were able to really find niches where you could get business for reasonable money through Google, but that didn't hold forever, because at some point Google started with the auctions and so on, and you saw that, for instance, platforms like in Germany, Check24 or e-insurance as they were called at that time, they were able to pay more than you as an insurer, because they had a much bigger conversion ratio, because they've had whatever 20, 30, 50, 40 insurers behind. And so that was not any longer the way to go, and you needed to find new ways of getting your business from for a reasonable amount of money. In our case, we decided, as I already mentioned, we decided that partnerships with, in our case, car manufacturers and financial companies, like, for instance, MLP or some others in this sense, were the way to go, and the acquisition costs or the conversion ratios were reasonable ones, so to speak. So not holding to one way that you have discovered as that's a good way. Things are changing, and things are changing nowadays much quicker. It's also not a new not new knowledge, or but changing quicker than they did in the past, and you have to change yourself as well.
And it's interesting because, you know, what you've just stated is, you know, the next kind of big, it's not even a hype, if you've been, you know, embedded insurance, right? It's the new kid on the block, but it's really just a different word for partnership or affinity or cooperation. And I think another thing you've said was, things speed up. And I think, you know, it's the same adage, just, you know, email was invented, you know, and that meant you had more emails to send. It wasn't just sending out the same level of mail in an electronic form. And so you need to continuously up the ante, and it's just interesting of what you say. You know, 25 years ago, I think we've come full circle. And
exactly, yeah, it's interesting to see. I realize it by myself in this conversation. Then one thing, in one sense, things have changed, and another they haven't. So on a very high level, there's a certain analogy to what has happened, whatever, 2 decades ago.
So if we pulled on that thread a little bit further, and again, I just like to ask for counterintuitive. So because there's also some things that are always true, right? And so, but kind of with that insight, what would you recommend or not recommend? What can we learn from because that's the smart thing to do, right? Some things you need to figure out. Some things you don't know, and sometimes you're right and sometimes you're wrong, but you just do not know whether it was a false or true negative in the beginning. But true wisdom, rather than intelligence, I believe, is learning from other people's mistakes, because everyone eventually learns from their own mistakes if you increase the pain enough. Most people at least do. So what past learnings can we take from the past if things are equal, and which ones do you think we shouldn't take? And I'll take the 99%. It doesn't have to be 100%.
Okay, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Makes it much more easier for me to answer.
Or 95%, right?
Okay, okay,
it's
got it. I think a headline from my end would be, and that's again probably not surprising. Headline would be customer and people in terms of what we have to look at. Perhaps also processes, and what not to look at from my end, from my experience, probably is product. At least things I have experienced is, especially in, let's say, the time that we were just talking about, 2 decades ago or so, people were very much focused on we need to have a better product. And what can we do, and where is there something like in the car insurance at that time? It was looking at insuring situations where people did a mistake, but it was not so strong. Is it insured? Is it not insured? Fahrlässigkeit, grobe Fahrlässigkeit, as we would say in German. So
gross negligence.
Negligence, exactly. I was thinking of. Yes, it's important, and even nowadays, for instance, with DOMCURA, our building insurance, of course, product is an important thing. But I would say it's more, as you sometimes say, a hygienic factor. But that's not why you are. Why you're leaving your competitors behind you. I think one thing, of course, is customer, and I think that's something where it has been talked quite a lot about this perspective. Customer centricity, for instance, looking at these things, I think back 2 decades ago, this was not really the main point, or it was not so much in the focus. And I think it's very much the same thing with people, with your own people. We as DOMCURA, but basically with everyone I'm talking to, I'm hearing similar things. We are all looking at people to work with us, and we also see whether it's whether there are jobs in let's say the claims departments in the insurance, or whether it's in the IT departments or product departments. When you have people there who are doing their job to earn their money, which I think is fair, but working just step by step, working their day through, so to speak. Basically you get your business managed, but I think the challenge is that from your 100% people that you have around you, that you get as many as possible, that you get perhaps whatever 20%, 30%, 35%, 1/3 or so, that you get them so motivated, or that you get them in a mode that they take the company not just as I need to go there or work from home nowadays, but I don't need to do this just to pay for my rent and for my food, and perhaps for some travel or some fun, but that you get
company
at least,
car,
exactly. And their things have changed as well. People like myself, perhaps you can motivate with company cars. People like my son or so, probably not that much. So you also need to have some kind of feeling how you do it. But I think giving benefits or so is, of course, also important and gets more important. But I think that's just one part of it. I think creating an atmosphere where people like to work, creating an atmosphere where they where they have the possibility to speak up, and where they can also make proposals that at the end don't turn out to be helpful, but and nobody is saying, well, what again did you say here? Think about it beforehand more quickly or more thoroughly. So I think this is a very, very important part. That's what I meant with people, getting people engaged in your business, getting the right people to your business. I think that's much more deciding about the future of companies and also of insurance companies in these times than it was, whatever, 20 years ago.
Okay, anyone who is inviting Uwe for a podcast, and I recommend you do it, don't bother with the script because you can just can it. So, I decided to not even bother trying to get back on script. So let's pull that thread a little bit stronger, because I think it's super relevant. But I think it's also relevant because there and I don't think it's the right word, but there's a lot of value signaling. I don't think there is a single person out there who wouldn't agree with you on that level. But what does that mean for you? What hard choices, what decisions did you have to make to support that? And when I say having a choice or decision, if there isn't a choice or even decision, it's never hard. It's nothing. Anyone, if it's just one or two and everything equal, you can just take two. But what has worked for you to, and you can go wherever you like in terms of hiring, culture, values, incentives, what are some things that you've said, wow, this really worked for us. On this one, the jury is still out. And quite frankly, I thought this was a great idea, but it wasn't, or even I thought this was a bad idea and it turned out to be, some examples I think are helpful for this topic, for some people to take something away from.
Yeah, I think in one way it's pretty easy, and it's pretty cheap, I would even say. On the other side, it's pretty demanding because you can't do it so easily. What I mean is the benefits, for instance, for people, as I said, is an important thing. We have job bikes, for instance, or we also promote using the public transport, and we give something in addition there. We have a massage in our company that you can have, and all these things, and whatever, fruits every day, and so on, what you read here and there, all these things we have as well. I think that's good, and you can do this, but just by doing these mechanical, if I might say it, mechanical things, I think you will not change the culture in the company, or people won't get different. Perhaps just the opposite. They are getting more and more demanding, and say, well, why don't I get this and this, because that's something that we don't have, and there's always something that you don't have at the end. So I think it's as usually it starts at the top. I think the most important thing is that you need to be interested in your people, in their ideas, and even more, the people need to recognize, the people need to feel that you are truly interested in these things. I have to say, my wife is a psychologist, and she's working in this field, so I get intros to this basically every day, or quite frequently, and I've thought through these things also quite a lot, and I've also seen that in our company, or also in my former company, that are the things that at the end work. Do they work? Can you change things within a week, a month, or a year? No, you can't. But I'm seeing this in our company here, which is coming from a very traditional arena, and I would say it took something like perhaps the last 5 years, just to name it, a span of time, to change things, and we are now getting things in a new direction. So, for instance, the last thing that we did on our Christmas party, whatever, some 4 or 5 weeks ago, I started, and that's in Germany, a big point. I started to change from Sie to du. So basically, now we started to go to a first name basis in our company, and not any longer Herr Schumacher, but people call me Uwe. I hope that they feel that this is something, this is not a kind of mechanical things, I need to do this and then to do that, but they feel that this is meant by myself or by my colleagues, that this also expresses a certain attitude towards the people. And I think people, after a certain time, if you're not doing it just a day or a week, but for a certain time, and you're interested in what they think, what they do, they recognize this. And I think that's a very important thing. The downside is in these days where you also need to look at quarter results or annual results. This is nothing where you gain merits within a quarter or within 2 quarters, but that's more a marathon, as you would say, than a sprint.
I think this is super interesting, and as suggested by you in the beginning, which is why we went off script, I think we could pull on this thread further and further. But I gotta be the timekeeper here. So conscious of time, is there a particular topic or question, and we don't need to fully answer it, that you find is not talked about often enough in podcasts, in one-to-one interactions, that you just want to kind of leave us with, as a kind of final parting gift, if you like?
I think whether it's not talked enough in podcasts, I don't know actually. But one thing which I think for a kind of concluding statement is, or I might even take two if I.
You may.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I think one thing really is that the insurance industry in the German-speaking countries, at least, is not as bad as we in the industry sometimes say we are. Yeah? So there's also kind of mood that I'm always that I'm still experiencing, where people said, well, the insurance, the banks, the Amazons, and so on, they are much more further ahead of us. Yeah, something is true in this as well. But if you are in every conversation, if you're saying, well, we are so bad, well, we are so far behind other industries, car industry, Amazon, and so on, I think things are not getting better, but they are getting worse. And everybody is saying, oh, we are so bad. Oh no, we are not. We are even worse, and so on. Yeah. So I think insurance in Germany, in Switzerland, and in Austria is not as bad as the people always think, and they are, I would say, quite open, or they got quite open in the recent times. And I think the other thing is, of course, that I think it can't be said enough that our company, that the DOMCURA, is an innovative, fair company, and that people who'd like to work, that they are invited to come to us. And of course, people who are looking for, and now I'm saying something about products, about good products, we are the place to go. So sorry for using this for advertisement reasons, but I think it has to be said.
Awesome. Tom, any last words?
Not really, but it would be interesting to have another conversation if you would, let's say, buy one of those insurtechs, because I think it's interesting just to see how this interaction goes.
Well, cross the fingers.
Yeah, so this
I would like
be
to.
That would be my last remark.
I think it's here. It's also a matter of money, of course. Yeah, and I've seen it in the past. If you were talking with intermediaries, sometimes people who have worked on their company for quite a while, they thought the company would be worth much more. But only whatever some private equity companies from the US were able to pay these amounts. Yeah? And I think it's similar with insurtechs. Yeah? 1 year ago, 1.5 years ago, you have evaluation of let's say 100. but in this short time, it has decreased to perhaps 5 or so. I don't know. And I think that's something that's tough to realize, especially if you're on the other side. If you perhaps need to do something on your company, it's tough to realize that things have changed in such a short time frame so dramatically. Yeah, but let's cross fingers.
Famous last words. Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Uwe, Tom, thank you so much, and have a lovely day. Take care.
Thanks to you, Tom and Niklas. Was really a nice experience to talk with you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.